أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أرواحنا له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Respected elders, brothers, sisters, the first thing is that I don't think this microphone setting is correct. Do you agree? Okay, can someone please quickly, भाई इसको थोड़ा set कर ले. Jazakallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Elders, brothers, sisters, yesterday we spoke about a crisis in the community, and that is the disunity of the community on a general level. There's no doubt. I think this is my 5th Ashra here. There's no doubt that every time I come, this is one thing that strikes me. Of course, it's everywhere. I'm not just saying about Bombay or India. It's everywhere, but because here I come every so often, it strikes me more because I get a chance to analyze the community properly and speak to people. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So the crisis that we spoke about yesterday was the disunity in the community. There's no doubt. There's so much disunity in the community. And we discussed yesterday, one of the ways of dealing with that is the advice of our 8th Imam, Imam Raza alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, in which he wrote to his companion, Shah Abdul Azim al-Hassani, the one who is buried in Tehran, that when we go to Tehran, we do his ziyarat. Shah Abdul Azim Hassani, he told him that tell my Shias few things. One of them was not to abuse one another and rip each other to parts. Number 2 is to have silence when dealing with one another, not to engage in argumentation. And then he makes a very strong statement. He says, Inni alaytu ala nafsi. He says, I swear upon myself. I swear that I have made it incumbent upon myself that if one of my Shias abuses another one of my Shias, I will pray to Allah to punish him. Imam will pray to Allah that punish this guy. He hurt one of my Shias. And then Imam adds that this punishment will come in the world for sure. This punishment will be one of the worst punishments of the world, Shadidul Adhab. And in the Akhirat, Minal Khasirin. He will be of those who lose. That was yesterday's topic on the community in general. Now, we want to go from community in general into something very specific. Another crisis in the community, which is the crisis of the breakup of marriages. Divorce is on the rise. Throughout the world is on the rise, and in our community is on the rise. Separation is on the rise. And there's a third thing on the rise, which is perhaps even more disturbing, which is when people will not go forth with divorce, they will remain in a suffering situation. In their house they are suffering badly, kids are suffering, wife is suffering, husband is suffering, everyone else is suffering. But they will say, you know what, for our izzat and honor in the community, we will not divorce, we'll stay as a dysfunctional family, let it be, but we will not divorce. So all these 3 situations are terrible. Divorce is terrible, but sometimes it's necessary. but there are very few occasions when it's necessary. There are some occasions in which Islam actually will encourage divorce. You may have not heard that before. Usually we hear that divorce is the worst thing of the halal things of Allah, which is true, 100%. It is the worst of all the halal things. Divorce is the worst. But there are some occasions where being together is even worse. So in those situations, Islam says better you go for the lesser of the two evils, which is divorce. Anyway, divorce is on the rise, it's a crisis. Marriages are breaking up, separating, it's in a crisis. Dysfunctional families, even those who are staying together, is in a crisis. Being in the position which I am, I get constant referrals. Maulana, this is happening. Maulana, that's happening. Maulana, he treats me like this. Maulana, she does that. And you see, the worst part of it is, yes, the torment on the husband and wife is one thing. But then you see the children which come out of this, really you feel very sorry. Because it's no fault of their own, but they come out as dysfunctional human beings. They can no longer function properly in society. And it's proven through statistics that the houses which end up in divorce, the children of those houses, is more likely that they will end up in divorce. So if, God forbid, I divorce, my children are more likely to divorce because they've seen what I've done in my life. The houses in which there is domestic abuse, husband hitting the wife, for example, it's more likely that that will continue and perpetuate in their children. Their children will be abusive to one another. We are sowing seeds in our lives, we are sowing seeds in our families, we are sowing seeds in our children. We may not realize it, but it's being sowed. And what you sow, you will reap. And then we will weep as well. So, tonight's topic is on the same line of thought that we had yesterday about creating harmony and peace in the community. Now we are looking for harmony and peace in the marriage between husband and wife. Allah Himself. Now, why did we choose this topic? Why did we choose these words of mercy and compassion and love? Because Allah Himself has chosen these words. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. He says, I have made spouses for you from yourselves, meaning from your own species. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. That you may find peace in them. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And we have placed, Allah has placed between you mawadda, love and mercy. Why do our houses not have love and mercy? What is the solution? How can we deal with this? This is our topic tonight, inshallah, with the barakat of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. To start, we will take one step back before we go even into the marriage. Okay? This is for all people who have, especially children or nephews and nieces that you can influence, that you have an influential power over. This is for you to understand and to implement. The first thing is, before even marriage begins, we don't look at marriage properly. I challenge you, go into a business deal, start a company, do some legal work, buy a property, do any of these things in your life. What will you do? The first thing you'll do is you'll say, let me consult. I need to consult a developer, I need to consult my lawyer, I need to consult a designer, I need to consult an architect, I need to get an engineer, I need to make sure X, Y, Z, is all done, all the boxes are ticked, and then and only then will I go into this. I need to understand my rights and responsibilities, I need to understand the other party's rights and responsibilities. MashaAllah, marriage is the one thing that we sell our whole selves to, but we don't understand the rights and responsibilities. Marriage. You're giving your body, you're giving your soul, you're giving your mind, you're giving your money, you're giving your time, you're giving everything to this other person, but we don't approach it like that. We approach it like a Bollywood movie. We think everything is hunky-dory, rosy, everything will be fine. Just say I love you to one another and all the problems will go away. We don't approach it right in the first place. We don't even know what the rights and responsibilities are. We don't even know what the adab of marriage, we don't even know what the etiquettes are, we don't even know what the akhlaq is expected of us. We look at a couple of things and we say, okay, fine, let him get married, let her get married. We look at, for example, number one, the physical maturity. That's very easy. To be physically mature in marriage is not a big deal. Even animals become physically mature. That's not any wow factor for a human being to say, I'm ready for marriage in a physical sense. We look at the physical maturity. Sometimes we look at the emotional maturity. That's okay. But do we rarely ever look at the mental maturity? Are you ready for marriage? Do you know what this thing is? Are you ready for this extra added responsibility in your life? Are you ready to take on the burdens which come with your spouse and his family or her family and all the other issues? Are you ready? We don't look at it like that. We look at it as a fairy tale. Now, there's a reason why we look at it as a fairy tale. Because we don't want our children to be overburdened too early. We think, let them stay in this safe, nice cocoon. Let me treat them like an egg and protect them and not reveal to them the harshness of life. Believe me, 5 years down the line, they will be blaming you. Papa, Mummy, why did you not prepare me? You could have told me this. Now I'm suffering. You could have shared this with me. Now I'm suffering. So the first thing is, let's take a step back. Preparation for marriage. You need to understand the rights, the responsibilities, the issues and the factors which are there in every marriage. This is what we're going to discuss first and foremost. Secondly, the first 6 to 12 months of marriage are the happiest times. It's bliss. It's like a year-long or half-year-long honeymoon. And you think, this can't go wrong. This is amazing. This is heaven. Whoever said that there's problems in marriage, whoever said that there's issues in marriage, you think everyone was lying. You think all these Maulanas were just scaring us. There's no problems here. We're in bliss. We're in heaven. That's true. But then it all fizzles out, doesn't it? Then life kicks in. The realities of life kick in and new things happen. So it's not right to judge marriage on just these fairy tale, Bollywood or other kind of things, these images. They are not accurate. The third thing before we go into the heavy stuff is social media. La ilaha illallah a'udhu min social media. I seek refuge in social media, from social media. This thing is a killer. This thing gives you a rosy picture because everyone is, mashallah, very smiley, brilliantly dressed, beautiful, immaculate. They're always on holiday. For some reason, they want me to know every breakfast, lunch and dinner what they're having. They want to share the menu with me, that look, I'm eating nice food. Why they do that, I don't know, but anyway, they feel they need to do that. So life is a very different picture on social media than it is in reality. But because our children are now social media experts and they're well into this field, they think that this is life and this is marriage and this is all it is. It's paradise. So we set them up immediately with wrong perceptions. We set them up immediately with wrong expectations. Then those expectations are not met and things go wrong. Okay, let's go on to the heavy stuff with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I have to be very careful. In this lecture, I have to be very careful and you have to be very careful. There are many things we're going to discuss. Some are sensitive, but I'm going to take the liberty to say them. Some are maybe new things for you. You have to have the maturity to listen and understand. The first thing we're going to discuss is rights. Rights of husband and rights of wife. However, let me tell you one thing. Although I'm going to say it, and although this is what Islam says, I don't believe life should go on the rights of husband and wife. I don't believe a successful marriage can run on rights of a husband and wife. Because once you hear the rights, and if you say to yourself, I'm going to stick to just the rights of a husband and just the rights of a wife, then your marriage will become very boring, very rigid, very structured, very formal, and it won't produce love and mercy. You may be able to have a functional way of life, like a tolerable way of life. It won't be enjoyable. These rights are therefore for what? These rights are to give you your basics. Your basics. Your fundamentals. The things you build on. They are not there just to give you everything you need in your marriage. So please, that's the disclaimer I'm giving. You have to understand that if we go on rights alone, marriage will not become enjoyable. It will become a burden. But this is what we're going to discuss first, so that we understand the rights, so that we have a bedrock, a foundation on which we build more things. Do you understand? Yes? Do you agree? Inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. First of all, ladies first, we discuss the rights of a wife. There are 4 fundamental rights of a wife in Islam. Number 1, she has the right to financial provision. She has the right to financial provision. This is the haqq of the woman upon the man. Man is responsible for earning the livelihood, earning the income, spending on his wife and children. At the moment, let's leave children, let's just talk about wife. Spending on the wife. Meaning what? Meaning all her necessities. Could be accommodation, it's a necessity. Clothing is a necessity. Food is a necessity. And reasonable other expenses which are regarded as a necessity. This is the right of a wife on the husband. Now in today's society, many occasions wife works and husband works. So what some people tend to do is they say, you know what? You earn, I earn, we go 50-50. You pay for half, I pay for half. This is not in Islam. Islam doesn't expect this from a woman. She may agree. She may say, yes, okay, I'm willing to give you 20%, 10%, 30%, 40%, whatever it may be. We can come to an agreement between us. But otherwise, what she earns, she doesn't have to give anything to the household. It is the obligation of the man to provide the basic necessities of the wife. Quran says, "Askinuhunna min haythu sakantum min wujdikum." This is very important. Someone comes along and says, a woman comes along and says, okay, I heard the Maulana say you have to pay for my expenses. I want this diamond ring. I want this Ferrari. I want these designer, outrageously expensive clothes. Does that come into it? No. No. Reasonable, necessary expenses is wajib. Unreasonable wastage is not wajib upon the man to provide at all. Quran says, min wujdikum. That means out of your affordability. Askinuhunna. House them min wujdikum. According to your ability. She says, I want a 4-5 bedroom mansion. You say, okay, but I can only afford this kind of smaller house. It's according to your affordability. Now, this is a right of the woman. Now again, let me emphasize this point. There's pros and cons here. Let's say we're looking for mawaddatan and warahma, right? Love and mercy. So now let's say we go on rights. Why I'm saying don't go on rights? Let's say we go on rights. The woman says, you're my husband, you have to provide everything. Now that everything, that man, the poor guy, he doesn't have a good job, for example. He has a mediocre job, whatever it is. He's not able to spend, he's not able to earn enough to support this household. And the wife demands and says, no, I heard the Maulana say it's my right. You have to work. So this poor guy ends up working 2-3 jobs just to fulfill this requirement. Tell me, if we go on rights, if we implement this right in its absolute sense, will the husband have love and mercy towards his wife? Of course not. He's got no energy left. He's got no time left. You've sucked the life out of him. You've killed him. So I'm telling you once again that the right is just to understand the bare bones and the structure of this thing. Not the whole life should be based on rights. Okay. Second right. The right to have her husband's company. The right to spend time with the husband. This is the right of a woman. When you enter into a marriage, it's expected to be a partnership. You're expected to spend time with one another. A husband who severely neglects the wife, not spending time with her, out with friends, for example, too much, this is violating the right of a wife. This is not within the Islamic way of looking at things. A wife's right is to spend time with her husband. Number 3, the right of physical satisfaction. This is also the right of a wife in Islam. Obviously, there are times when, for physical problems, for mental problems, sometimes a man cannot. This is understandable. For this, he has to find a cure, he has to work on this, he has to do something to bring him into a position where he is able to. And by the way, if there is a permanent defect in the man and he cannot perform physically, if there is a permanent damage, something which cannot be rectified, this gives grounds to the woman for a divorce, by the way. So, this is another right of the wife of physical satisfaction. And 4th, maybe more than any of them more important. What have we discussed so far? Financial, company, physical. The 4th one I think is the most important. A wife has the right to honor and respect. A wife has the right to be honored and respected. Most women, you tell them, I won't give you this 4th right, I'll give the other 3. They'll say, I'm not interested. What use? If I don't have any izzat in the house, if I don't have any honor in front of you, what's the use? Buy me everything you want. If I don't have honor and izzat and respect, what's the use? Quran says very clearly, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live with them with kindness and goodness. فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُوهُنَّ. Maybe there'll come a time, listen to this is amazing. This verse is mind-blowing. Allah says, maybe there will come a time when you lose your liking for her. Maybe you'll go off her. Then what do? فَأَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا. It could be that you dislike something, in other words, you dislike this woman. وَيَجْعَلُ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. But Allah has placed immense goodness in this woman. Don't always just go on your whims and desires. Don't always say, oh, today I don't feel like it. Oh, today I don't like you. Oh, 1 month it was good, now the second month is boring. Don't say, oh, the 12 months of honeymoon period are finished. Now I'm tired, now I'm bored, now I'm going somewhere else. This is not fair. Honor and respect is the 4th right of the woman, the wife. 4 fundamental rights of a wife in Islam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Someone comes to the Holy Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and asks him, Ya Rasulullah, what are the rights of a wife on her husband? He replied in 3 sentences. He says, number 1, to cover her with clothing, the financial side. Number 2, to satisfy her hunger, again the financial side. Number 3, this is the most beautiful, not to frown upon her. Forget abuse, swearing, taunting, putting down, abusing, criticizing. Forget that. Not to frown. Not to show your wife you're displeased. Women are made differently. Women are affected differently. They have different kinds of feelings, they have different kinds of expectations. Not to even frown. Look at the depth of Islam's rights and responsibilities that they are giving. Now, this frowning, did you hear it in the 4 rights? No, it wasn't there in the 4 rights. That's what I'm saying, you can't go just on rights. The rights help you to move one step further into better behavior in general. Now we come on to the rights of a husband. Rights of the wife were 4, rights of the husband are 3. The fundamental rights of a husband are 3. Number 1, same thing, the right to be with his wife, companionship. It is expected in Islam. If you're a wife, you have entered into marriage, and you're all day out, you're all day with other people, you're all day with your own family, this is not right. This is not acceptable. Islam expects a level of companionship and togetherness between husband and wife. The same that we said for the husband, the same we are saying for the wife. Your duty is to be with your husband. First and foremost with your husband. Number one. Number two, the right of a physical relationship. Again, same thing that we mentioned before. Even more so, this is emphasized for the husband's rights. This is more so. Again, husbands have to understand, there are times of the month in which it is haram, when there are days of hayd. This is haram altogether. There are times when physically, for other reasons, she may not be able to. This should be respected. There are times when mentally she may not be able to. This is to be respected. We are not animals. There's no force here. There is no compulsion. Otherwise, where will the mawadda and rahmah come from? If you enter now into a marriage in which now, whenever you want it, you click your fingers and you think, that's it should be there for me. No matter what state and what position she's in, where will the mercy and compassion come from? She'll say, what mercy and compassion is this? Islam is not slavery. Islam is not buying and selling things of human quality. You have to understand, you can't just go on bare rights the way it is in black and white. There has to be understanding of the other contexts. You take, for example, the right that I just explained, the physical right of physical intimacy, and then you say the other right which I mentioned of honor and mercy and compassion and respect. Do you see how when you put them together you get a different view? Otherwise, just to look at one right without the other is not correct. I say I want physical relationship. She's not ready. I, na'udhu billah, force and I compel. Where is the izzat and honor there? We have not maintained the izzat and honor. We have not maintained the honor and respect of our life partner. So all of these things, all of these rights have to be borne in mind properly in their right place. Second. Third, the right, this one is a controversial one, but it is there and I make no apologies for it. This is called haqqut ta'ah, the right of compliance. It is the right of a husband that the wife complies in certain things. Mainly what they discuss here is the permission to leave the house. The wife should comply. Now what does this mean? Does this mean the wife, she wants to go down the road to buy a pint of milk, she has to apply for a visa? Please, can I go? Do you allow me? She wants to go out for something, she wants to meet someone, she has to apply for a visa, she has to ask. Or there's a very formal process. No. If you implement this right in its absolute sense, then forget it. I don't see your marriage lasting very long. Because it's impossible in this day and age to operate in this way. This is a right which just gives you the fundamental. What is the fundamental point here? The fundamental point here is that men are responsible for their families. When you have responsibility for someone, you need to know generally what they are doing and where they are. The way you have your kids, you're responsible for them. You don't just let them go anywhere at any time with any old person. No, you ask. The same way men are responsible for their wives. So it is expected that there is an understanding. This is what Islam wants. Have an understanding with your missus. You don't have to ask me. In fact, you shouldn't be implementing it like that in this day and age. It's not practical. That you don't have to ask me every time you want to go out of the house. That's not what we're saying. We are saying that in a general level, we should keep each other informed where we are, who we are with. I'm responsible for you. I need to know. But there are even exceptions to this. There are certain exceptions. The three exceptions as recorded, for example, right now you open Tawzi'ul Masail of Sistani, Hafadahullah, may Allah protect him and give him a long life. There are three exceptions mentioned. Number one, if she has a necessity, she can leave. It's not some kind of, old age, medieval type of rule that no matter what happens, let the house burn down and you burn inside but you can't leave. Oh yeah, it is not like it is. If there's a necessity, if staying in the house is exceptionally difficult for her. Number three, if the house is not appropriate for whatever reason, there are details in this which I don't want to go into, but there are even exceptions to this. If we go on rights, if we just say, right, these are your 4, these are my 3, let's go ahead, it's not going to work. So now I want to present something more to you, which puts the rights in their right context, and then inshallah we can come to a conclusion inshallah with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So rights have pros and cons, as you've seen. If you go to implement it in one way, you'll lose another. You go to try to do this and something else will go wrong in your life, because it's not the way to work, it's not the way to live, to always just look at rights as they are in black and white. We need something else to put this into a right context. This thing which I'm going to present, you may not have heard this, you may not have considered this, but I'm going to present it. I hope you'll understand. This thing is called insaf. Insaf. Someone give me the English definition of insaf. I disagree with you. It's not justice, because adalat is justice. It's not equality. Musawat is equality. Ji?
Place something which is actually due where it has to be placed.
No, sorry. Fairness, thank you. Salawat for that brother, please. Allahumma sallallahu. Insaf is fairness. We sometimes confuse the terms adalat and insaf, and we say both are justice. This is insafi, this is na insafi. True, but its accurate definition is fairness. I'm going to explain why. First of all, what is the result of this fairness and insaf in life? This is very important for a marriage. Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, two hadith. Fairness brings hearts together. Number 2, fairness makes relationships continue. Very important in a marriage. This can be directly transported and put into a marriage. Number 1, in marriage you need hearts to come together, yes. You need this relationship to continue, yes. Therefore implement fairness. Third hadith from the same Imam. He says, this is the tough one. A mu'min observes fairness even with those who are not fair to him. That's the hard one. This is where we suffer. Who has been fair with you and who has been unfair with you? I bet you can tell me more the people who have been unfair with you than fair with you. This is our nature. We hold grudges. We hold bad memories more than good memories. Okay, so you've been unfair with me. I'll be unfair back to you. You'll be unfair back to me. I'll be unfair. How long? The circle has to break at some point. Now he's been treated badly, so that when he deals with you, he'll remember, he'll start to do it to you. Then you'll remember and you'll do it to him. And it goes on and on and on, and it perpetuates, community member to community member, generation to generation. Amirul Mu'mineen says a mu'min is someone who is fair to even those who are unfair with him. Because the cycle has to break. The continuous, horrible, vicious cycle of unfairness with one another has to break at one point. And that's where we come in, mu'min, if we are mu'min. Mu'min does insaf. There's no condition to insaf. There's no condition that, okay, because he was my brother, I'll be good with him. But if he's not my brother, then I'm not good with him. No. He did good to me, so I'll be good to him. He did bad to me, so I'll be bad to him. No. Fairness has to be with each and every person. It is unconditional. What is insaf? Would someone like to give me your understanding of insaf and fairness? What are we saying here? What do we mean fairness? Do something which you would like other people to do with you. Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. That's a good way of looking. Reciprocate. Reciprocate, okay. So I have a different definition from the ulama. Ulama of Islam, when we talk about akhlaq, they have done tremendous work. Ya Allah, may Allah reward them. They have done tremendous work in the field of akhlaq. Let me present to you their understanding of insaf. Insaf comes from which root of Arabic? I don't know, Maulana Sahib, if you want to contribute. Which root of Arabic does insaf come from? It comes from the word nisf. Nisf. What is nisf? Half. Thank you very much. Half. Okay? So insaf is this. There is a dispute. There is a row, a quarrel between two people. Adalat will say, look at the situation and be just and come to a decision. Insaf doesn't say that. Insaf says, when there is a quarrel and a dispute, put yourself at least 50% from the other person's viewpoint. You know, we said nisf. 50% at least go to the other person's viewpoint and then judge the situation. And then come with your conclusion. Think very carefully what I've just said. This is an amazing, life-changing thing if you can implement it in your life. Let me give you an example. Someone comes to a bakery and steals bread. Adalat says, call the cops, get this man arrested, take him to court and punish him. That's Adalat, correct? Insaf says, brother, when is the last time you had a meal? When is the last time you had something to eat? What do you need? Do you need bread? Do you need half a bread, full bread, 2 bread, 3 bread? Do you have children at home? Is there something I can do for you? You must be in a desperate situation to steal bread from me. This is insaf. You've gone to that other person's side and looked from their point of view. Now in marriage, how many small stupid things do we argue about? How many ridiculous things are we engaged with and we have a row about it? If only we could have somehow gone on to this side and looked, I wonder what she feels at the moment. I wonder what impact she is feeling. Or, I wonder the way he's looking at it. I wonder what his view is. I'm spending so much time out of the house. Adalat says, rights of a husband. I can go outside, so what? Where does Islam say it's haram? Insaf says, I go out, I wonder how she feels alone at home. Insaf says, calling, for example, for the wife to say, honoring the parents is a great ibadat. And your parents are always around your house and your husband is sick and tired. Adalat says, no, Islam says it's fine. Insaf says, I wonder what he feels. That I'm never able to spend time with him. I'm always with my parents. This is insaf and adalat. So insaf, Sarwarane Muazzam, my dear respected elders, insaf is that when you have a jagra, when you have a issue, when you have a quarrel with someone, you put yourself at least at 50%. If you can go to 51%, all the better. 60%, all the better. 90%, wow. 100%, you're an angel. It's difficult, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's doable. It's doable. So, when we talk about rights of a husband and wife, they are there. Those rights you cannot implement exactly 100% all the time, because life will become very bad, very rigid, very much formal and boring. That's not the way a marriage should be. To build on those rights is the right thing to do. When you take the concept of insaf and fearing Allah, ittaqullah, then you won't find 4 rights of a wife. You will find 400 rights of a wife. When you bring insaf and taqwa and Allah into your marriage, you won't find 3 rights of a husband. You'll find 300 rights of a husband. Those rights are just to give you the bare bones of the marriage, the bare framework in which to operate. They're not to be implemented strictly in a black and white sense. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Paradigar salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Final point, and then we move on to masail. How to implement insaf. Lovely concept, lovely idea, but how to implement? The first thing to do is to admit your mistake. This is the first and basic thing in insaf. When you want to live a life full of fairness, the first thing to do is to have the guts and the courage to admit your mistake. I was wrong. As long as you don't admit your mistake and you don't agree that you are wrong, forget it. Insaf can't happen, adalat can't happen, mawaddah can't happen, rahmah can't happen. It's impossible. That is the biggest block we have, that we always think we are right. Even when I'm right, I'm right. Even when I'm wrong, I'm right. This is what we think. Even in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the first stumbling block. Allahumma lakal utba. Please learn this one sentence from me. Recite it day and night. Allahumma lakal utba. What are you saying? Oh Allah, sorry. I made a mistake. I messed up. Sorry. Even in marriage, this is what you need to do. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It was my fault. Without that, you will never understand the 50% or the 51% or the 60%. You will never be able to get there. Second thing, reflect and think in your minds, where are your biases? What things make you biased? Sometimes we are very sensitive, and on our family we become very biased. My dad can never do this. My mum can never do this. You must be wrong. Really? Or are you biased? Same thing happens in issues. For example, my son and another boy, they'll have a row. Most likely I will say, my son cannot be wrong. I had this, when we discuss with other mu'mineen. One boy was doing such terrible things. May Allah bless him. He's a very nice boy, but okay, boys are boys. He was doing terrible things. Someone goes to the parent and says, look, your son, man, can you control him? So the boy comes and the mother asks, did you do this? He says, no. So she says, you see, my son never lies. He didn't do it. He's telling you he didn't do it. This is bias. Look at where your biases are. Are they on your money? Are they on your family? Are they on other sensitive issues? We all have sensitive issues. And if it's those issues, we're never wrong. That's not right. Look at your biases. Look at where you sometimes get twisted in your mind and you can't understand that it's your fault or your side's fault. Could be your family as well. Maybe that is your side in that moment. Okay? So always look at these things. Number one, admit when you're wrong. Number two, look at your side and your biases. Don't let them influence you into being ghayr insaf, na insaf, unfair. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. These are the nights of mourning, these are the nights of grief, these are the nights of tears and of azadari on Aba Abdullah. May Allah count us amongst the companions of Aba Abdullah. May Janab Zahra write our names in the list of lovers of Aba Abdullah. May Hazrat Abbas write us amongst the list of those who do ziyarat of Abu Abdullah. Ya Abu Abdullah, we don't have life if it's not for you. We don't have anything if it's not for you and your holy family. When the moon of Muharram would be sighted, the attitude of Ahlul Bayt would change. All of a sudden you would see they would not laugh, they would not make joy, they would be sad, they would be sullen. They would begin to hold ceremonies in their houses. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam used to hold a majalis, used to call people, used to pay them, recite some words about my grandfather Hussein, and how Imam cried himself, how Imam used to shed tears on his grandfather Abu Abdullah. They would hold gatherings, they would hold ceremonies, they would encourage people, mourn upon Abu Abdullah. Imam Raza says, my grandfather Hussein was slaughtered like the animals are slaughtered. He says, Ya ibn al-Shabib, my grandfather Hussein lost people on the day of Ashura, that they don't have Shabihun, there is no one like them. In one day Hussein lost his dear and Aziz-e-Dil Hazrat Ali Akbar, his beloved Qasim, his backbone Hazrat Abbas in one day. As the days go by and we reach near to Ashur, Imam Kazim alayhi salam used to increase his grief every day until he came to the 10th of Muharram, which is said that it would be a day of complete grief and mourning for Imam Kazim alayhi salam. In the build-up to Karbala, usually I dedicate this majlis to the memory of someone who was so beloved to Abu Abdullah. When the letters of the people of Kufa began to come to Makkah, Imam Hussein alayhi salam received these letters. They were in their thousands. Some people have said 12,000 letters came from Kufa inviting him, oh come, oh son of Rasulullah, come to Kufa, we are ready for you, we will accept you. People were coming to Abu Abdullah telling him, don't do this. The people of Kufa are not to be trusted. They betrayed your father, they betrayed your brother. Abu Abdullah says, let me see the situation. Abu Abdullah looked around. He needs someone trusted and beloved for him to send him to Kufa to check out the situation. His eyes fall upon his one trusted cousin and brother, Muslim ibn Aqil. He looks at Muslim. He says to the people of Kufa, I am sending to you Akhi, my brother, wa thiqati, the one I trust. Muslim goes to Kufa. In the days that Muslim ibn Aqil is in Kufa, he has many supporters, he has many followers. Until a spy is sent into the group of Hazrat Muslim, and he then reports back to Ibn Ziyad. The first thing that happens is Ibn Ziyad cannot find Hazrat Muslim, but he comes and arrests Hazrat Hani. When Hani is arrested, Muslim realizes that now the game is up. Now we have been caught. So he rises an uprising. He gathers 4,000 people with him. He says, we will march upon the palace. The palace has hardly 30 to 50 people. This would have been a walkover. It would have been so easy for them to take the palace on that day. Ibn Ziyad plays his last trick. He does three things. Number one, he announces, he says, you dare to take this palace? The army of Sham is just around the corner, they will see to you. Many of these 4,000 people left and said, you know what, this is not for us. If the army of Sham is coming, we're not going to fight. The next thing they do is they send people into the crowd with bribes. Stop fighting for Muslim. Here's 100, here's 200, here's 500, here's 1,000. Slowly, slowly, people are bought. The number dwindles further. The final thing they do is they spread a rumor in the town to the wives and the family members of these soldiers. They are told, if your men participate in this, we will cut you off from the public funding, we will make your life difficult, we will come to your homes and raid your homes. Wives came and pulled their husbands away saying, you don't have to fight, you don't have to fight, you don't have to fight. The number reduced and reduced and reduced until it came to the stage where it's nearing Maghrib time, Janabi Muslim looks behind. He says, I had 4,000, now I have a handful. He says, let us do one thing, it is the time of Salah, let us pray in the mosque. They go to the Masjid. Janabi Muslim looks behind him after the namaz is finished. He's seeing no one is with him. And now he is alone in the streets of Kufa. He is tired and weary. The sun was hot. He is thirsty. He goes to door. Each and every door turns him away until he comes to one particular door. He knocks on the door. The lady says, you look weary. You look tired. What do you want? He says, I need some water. She says, who are you? First tell me this. He says, Ana Muslim. She says, which Muslim? He says, Ana Muslim ibn Aqil. She says, which Aqil? He says, Aqil ibn Abi Talib. She begins to cry. She says, you are the nephew of my Mawla. Come into my house. Spend time in my house. I will protect you. This lady says, Wallah, the night that Muslims spent in my house, I heard nothing except for the zikr of Allah. This Muslim was in sajda the whole night. All I could hear was Subbuhun, Quddusun. All I could hear was the zikr of Allah. The son of this lady was a treacherous person. He had understood that this is none other than Muslim ibn Aqil. He goes to the palace of Ibn Ziyad and he informs that you wanted to know where Muslim was? He's in this place. Ibn Ziyad sends an army. The army surrounds Hazrat Muslim. He fights very bravely, very courageously, but eventually he is taken. He is taken to the palace. He walks into the palace. He looks at Ibn Ziyad. He doesn't say a word. Someone says to him, salute your Amir. He says, he's not my Amir. Amiri Husaynun. My Amir is Abu Abdullah, no one else. Ibn Ziyad says, Muslim, today we kill you. Muslim says, no problem, worse than you has killed better than me. But I have a request. Ibn Ziyad says, make your request. Muslim looks around. He doesn't see anyone he knows except for one person, Umar ibn Sa'd. Umar ibn Sa'd and Muslim, they were somehow related. He says, you're from my family, come here, let me give you my last wasiyat, my last testimony. Ibn Sa'd goes, Muslim tells him, number one, I have a debt. Sell my things, my shield and my sword. Sell them and pay my debt. Number two, bury me a proper Muslim burial. Number three, allow me to reach a message to my beloved Hussein. Let me tell Hussein that, oh Hussein, those 12,000 letters you received, don't rely on them. Kufa is not what you think. This Ibn Sa'd goes and tells Ibn Ziyad, oh, these are the three things he wanted. Ibn Ziyad tells Ibn Sa'd, he says, he trusted you with his last wasiyat and you're making it public. They take Muslim up. Muslim ibn Aqil stands on the edge of Darul Imara. One eye must have been on the floor because the practice of the time was to behead people and to throw their bodies down onto the floor of Kufa. And one eye must have been on the desert, thinking, oh Abu Abdullah, you are coming to this place only. You don't know the people here. I have not been able to give you my last message that don't come here. Indeed, the head of Muslim was severed. Indeed, his body was pushed to the floor. Indeed, the body of the son of Aqil was dragged in the streets of Kufa. And then they took his body and they hung it where? On the edge of Kufa, where the garbage is dumped. His body was placed there. At that moment, some riders rode out from Kufa. They were going towards Makkah. On the way, they met Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein asks them, tell me, what is the news of my beloved Muslim? They said, Abu Abdullah, if you don't ask us, it's better. He says, tell me. They said, as we were leaving Kufa, your beloved Muslim was taken to the top of the building. They beheaded him and they threw his body down. We decided to leave Kufa at that moment. Abu Abdullah says to Zainab, he says, Zainab, bring me the daughter of Muslim. The daughter of Muslim comes. She says, Abu Abdullah, you called me. He says, oh my daughter, come, sit on my lap. He begins to kiss the daughter, to stroke the hair of the daughter, to show love to the daughter. She looks at him and says, Abu Abdullah, is my father okay? He says, daughter, why do you ask this? She says, Abu Abdullah, I have seen this kind of behavior only with the yatim and the orphans. This is how you show them love. Is my father okay? We say, oh daughter of Hazrat Muslim, still you are lucky that you had Abu Abdullah to give you the love. Oh, the woe of Sakina. Who did she have? Who could she go to when the earrings were pulled and the clothes were burnt and the slaps were being given on the face of Janab Sakina? She had no one to go to. Allah la'natullah al-qawmi al-zalimin wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyamun kalimiyan kalibun inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Oh Allah, give us always the love of Abu Abdullah and love of Ahlul Bayt. Oh Allah, increase our tawfiq. Oh Allah, increase our love and mercy between the different families and the different households and the different marriages in the community. Oh Allah, if we have done anything wrong, please forgive us. Oh Allah, we plead to you with the mercy that you have shown to us all our lives, and with the wasila of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, and with the wasila of Janab Sakina Salamullahi alayha. Oh Allah, we pray to you to hasten the reappearance of our 12th Imam, and to give us the tawfiq to be in the army of the Imam. Let us remember all marhumeen with Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha.